if Pakistan can leverage its position, if Pakistan can pull all its strings to mediate in this, to act as a mediator in the Iran war, why couldn't India do it?
For several reasons, because India is not trusted by both sides, and India has given up its leadership position in the global south a while ago. India kind of abdicated this position as it grew closer to the US and Israel over a period of time, especially after Prime Minister Modi has come to power. We have been seen as standing with Israel and standing with the US, because of which countries in the global south don't trust our leadership anymore.
We've also seen how close Asim Munir in the last 1 year has been to Donald Trump. So why Iran would not have that kind of suspicion as far as Pakistan is concerned? Iran should be equally suspicious of Pakistan.
Because Pakistan is not perceived as close to Israel in the same way, firstly.
Right.
Secondly, they know that they are in close contact with the White House. Pakistan seems to have figured out the number at Washington, whereas India has not, despite all the hugging and backslapping and "Ab ki baar Trump Sarkar" and genuflecting, and Trump does not respect that. Trump respects somebody who has a spine, who can stand up to him. You can see the way he respects China, the way he respects.
One very important question: that do you see this as an insult, as a humiliation of India?
When a country 1/7 your size and one you consider your enemy is mediating with an economy which is like 1/8 yours, which has got perpetual political and economic crises, then yes, it shows that you don't have that respect in the international system, which should be due to a country of your size, and which actually, when we were much less powerful, we had. So it shows that we have been making the wrong decisions and the wrong choices.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Now, Pakistan, which is walking a tightrope amid the ongoing war between the allies in the Middle East, is reportedly trying to position itself as the lead mediator to broker peace between Iran and its foes, which is United States and Israel. Now, Islamabad is using its military strongman's ties to Tehran and its warm relationship with US President Donald Trump, according to a report which has appeared on many news platforms. Now, so far, Islamabad has pursued cautious diplomacy by condemning the strikes on Iran, but simultaneously urging for de-escalation. However, Pakistan has now offered Islamabad as a possible venue for talks between senior figures from the Trump administration and Iran as early as this week. This is what the source-based stories on various media platforms are saying. Now, the reports are also saying that Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir spoke to US President Donald Trump on Sunday, while Prime Minister Mohammad Shahbaz Sharif held talks with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian on Monday. Now, the call between Sharif and Pezeshkian coincided with Trump's announcement of delaying his threat to obliterate Iran's power plants. Now, to this particular story, everyone is asking that if Pakistan can leverage its position to become a mediator, India was well poised to do this job. Why couldn't India do this? Why couldn't India become a mediator in the Iran war? Now, there's a tweet which I'm going to put out, which was put out in the morning by Jairam Ramesh, the Congress leader, and I'll just read it out what he's written. He said that multiple reports in leading international media outlets have identified Pakistan as one of the intermediaries being used between the US and Israel on the one side and Iran on the other. If these reports are true, they represent a severe setback and rebuff to India. and it is all attributable to the self styled Vishwaguru. For over a year, it's been abundantly clear that, in spite of our undoubted military successes in Operation Sindoor, the sad reality is that thereafter, Pakistan's diplomatic engagement and narrative management has been markedly superior to that of the Modi government. Pakistan, which was in a hugely precarious situation politically, socially, economically, and globally, has received a fresh lease of life. President Trump warmly and repeatedly embraced the man whose incendiary and inflammatory rhetoric formed the backdrop to the Pahalgam terror attacks on April 22nd, 2025, and hosted Field Marshal Asim Munir twice in the White House, in the brackets, including for an unprecedented lunch. The Pakistani establishment has developed a cozy relationship with President Trump's immediate circle. Mr. Modi's ill advised visit to Israel that ended just 2 days before the unprovoked US Israel aerial assaults on Iran began will go down in our political history as a singularly disastrous choice, one that has made us retreat from a position where we could and should have mediated. Prime Minister's hypocrisy stands brutally exposed, and the country is being forced to pay a price for this. So, this is exactly the question we are asking tonight on Truth Be Told, that instead of Pakistan, why couldn't India leverage its position as a mediator? Not to forget that India is also chairing the BRICS summit. It's a chair. It's sitting on the post of the chair. So all these questions need answers at this point of time. And joining me this evening is international affairs expert Professor Mohsin Raza Khan. Thank you so much, Mohsin, for joining. And the same question to you, that if Pakistan can leverage its position, if Pakistan can pull all its strings to mediate in this, to act as a mediator in the Iran war, why couldn't India do it?
For several reasons, because India is not trusted by both the sides, and India has given up its leadership position in the global south a while ago. India kind of abdicated this position as it grew closer to the US and Israel over a period of time, especially after Prime Minister Modi has come to power. We have been seen as standing with Israel and standing with the US, because of which countries in the global south don't trust our leadership anymore in the way that they used to uh, right from our independence till about, say, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And you can see that in the evidence, that during the Gaza conflict, we didn't condemn the genocide in Gaza. We didn't condemn Israel's actions. We didn't even criticize them. We continued to supply Israel weapons from Indian arms factories located in the south. And so we immediately provided Indian labor to replace the Palestinians who had been taken out of their jobs by the Israelis. So we also stopped supporting the Palestinians the way we used to. And as you can see, the global South's whole orientation is pro-Palestinian, whether because they are the oppressed. So South Africans, or you can go anywhere. I mean, even in Europe, Irish, etc. They all support the Palestinians in the International Court of Justice, etc. And uh, Netanyahu is a kind of war criminal in most countries in the world. He can't go without getting arrested. Leave aside America or UK, but the vast majority of the world's countries. So we have been consistently standing with them, and especially in this conflict. Just 2 days before the conflict, the prime minister was hugging Netanyahu and declaring in the Israeli Knesset parliament that we are, standing with Israel always, friends with Israel. And even after he just left, Modi left Israel, Netanyahu gave out a statement the very day he was attacking, the next day, saying that India, an old friend, and I think old friend he was referring to Modi, are standing by us. So how will Iran accept us as an unbiased mediator? It's hardly likely to do so. Whereas Pakistan is perceived as more closer by Iran. Second, the US also doesn't respect us. Trump doesn't respect us.
But as far as Pakistan is concerned, Mohsin, we've also seen how close Asim Munir in the last 1 year has been to Donald Trump. So why Iran would not have that kind of suspicion as far as Pakistan is concerned? Iran should be equally suspicious of Pakistan.
Because Pakistan is not perceived as close to Israel in the same way, firstly.
Right.
Secondly, they know that they have they are in close contact with the White House. Pakistan seems to have figured out the number at Washington, whereas India has not, despite all the hugging and backslapping and "Apki Bar Trump Sarkar" and genuflecting and uh, Trump does not respect that. Trump respects somebody who has a spine who can stand up to him. You can see the way he respects China, the way he respects countries, even Europe, as long as it was genuflecting. He didn't respect Europe, Trump. Once they stood up uh, after Greenland incident, he suddenly started respecting them. So this constantly bending over to the US, when they say we stop buying oil from Russia, when they permit, we go back to buying oil from Russia. So this was not seen favorably by Trump either. So even Trump doesn't trust us. He doesn't inform us. He doesn't take our advice. He doesn't forget advice. He doesn't even inform us. So we couldn't have been a mediator, and we lost this position not just over a period of the last 10 years, as I've explained with respect to Gaza and Israel and all that. We lost it also during the Ukraine war.
No, but during the Ukraine war, you remember the kind of narrative which was built by the BJP ecosystem, Papa ne war rukwa di. Now that same ecosystem is just not responding. And what would they have to say now today when the stories are all around that Pakistan is acting as a mediator? And also one very important question: that do you see this as an insult, as a humiliation of India?
When a country one-seventh your size and one you consider your enemy is mediating with an economy which is like one-eighth yours, which has got perpetual political and economic crises, then yes, it shows that you don't have that respect in the international system, which should be due to a country of your size, and which actually, when we were much less powerful, we had. Uh, so it shows that we have been making the wrong decisions and the wrong choices. In fact, with respect to that Russia-Ukraine war, not only did Papa did not stop the war, but the problem was Papa was on the wrong side. That is, if we were to take a principled stand, we should have taken a stand saying to Russia that please don't do this. This is wrong. Don't. We have to speak up against the aggressor. If we took a principled stand, and then we would have been on much better terms with everybody, in Europe and America and all that. But instead, we were giving Europe advice. We were showing red eyes. If you remember, our foreign minister was showing laser eyes to the Europeans and giving them advice on how to behave with Russia and America. And now that foreign minister himself has disappeared. I mean, he's still foreign minister, but he doesn't appear in public. So that shows you how badly mismanaged and amateurish, if not, clownish, this foreign policy has been of this government. They claim that we are working in strategic interests. When okay, if you decided to take an unprincipled stand and decided to buy oil from Russia on the cheap, then you should have continued with it. That also you couldn't do because you came under pressure from Trump and you immediately withdrew from Russian oil. That itself I could not understand. You stopped taking you took so many risks, lost your reputation, and then you stopped buying that oil under American pressure. Now, when we are going back to Russia, Russia, which was offering that oil at $45 a barrel. At that time, the price was about $65 to $70 a barrel in the international market. Russia was begging and saying, take it for 45. Now that same Russia is not willing to sell less than $100 because the international price is 110. So they're saying, no, we won't sell for less than $100. So now we are going back to Russia because America has permitted us for 1 month to buy that oil. First of all, where is that strategic autonomy? I don't know. When we stop buying, when you go back to buying, where is that strategic autonomy? And then Russia is, we even gave up all of the, okay, we gave up our reputation, but then we gave up the benefit also because now Russia is willing to sell that oil only at more than twice what it was asking for earlier. So, I mean, the whole foreign policy is a mess.
No, but I'm
Only
I'm I'm sort of trying to put the two and two together, that what exactly has happened in the Iran war. Now, if Pakistan is playing the role of a mediator, so is it Donald Trump who must have called Pakistan and asked them that, come on, now I have to end the war? Somehow you help, you become the mediator. And I guess the similar thing would have been said by Israel also. What are we to assume? What has actually happened?
see, two, three countries were involved in this process. Turkey was trying to be a mediator. Egypt was trying to be a mediator. Pakistan was trying to be a mediator. And from what I hear, but is not being explicitly said in the Indian press, that Oman also was in the business. Now, Oman might have burnt its fingers, and maybe Trump didn't like the fact that the Omani foreign minister went on American TV saying that Iran had agreed to all of Trump's conditions. So maybe that was the reason. I don't know what. Trump seems to favor Shehbaz Sharif and Asim Munir, both of whom have spoken to him, and Shehbaz Sharif apparently has spoken several times with Iran's President Pezeshkian as well. So Pakistan seems to be rightly in the right books of the US and also in the right books of Iran. Maybe Iran doesn't trust, I don't know, Egypt and Turkey to the same extent. So
No,
they're
if India was equally keen, they would have enjoyed the similar position what Pakistan is enjoying today.
absolutely. We were very close to Iran at one point. We were building the Shah Bahar port, which we abandoned again under US pressure. We used to get very cheap oil from them. In fact, Iran was so desperate, it used to pay the insurance and the transportation cost of that oil. But we stopped again under US pressure, 2018 onwards. So slowly, slowly, and then as Iran saw that we were so bummy chummy with Netanyahu and Israel, they just stopped trusting us. So you're absolutely right. We had a very good relationship with Iran, right? I mean, even from before independence. So there was no reason that we couldn't have been a mediator. And and whether the US liked us or not, the US respected us. Under previous governments, you would have seen the kind of respect that Manmohan Singh was held in by Obama, even Vajpayee, and yeah, everybody, Indira Gandhi or Rajiv Gandhi. So it's a sad day for us, and it shows how far our stock has fallen in the International Committee of Nations.
Absolutely. In fact, I would also want to talk to you about Prime Minister's address today in Rajya Sabha. He spoke in Lok Sabha yesterday on the West Asia conflict. Today, he was speaking in Rajya Sabha. I'll just share a few points of what exactly he said. He said that India has raised the issue of de escalation and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Then he said that since the conflict in West Asia, he has held telephonic conversations with the leaders of Gulf countries as well as with Iran, Israel, and the United States. Now, Prime Minister has also said that India's objective is to restore peace in the region through dialogue and diplomacy. These are the two words which he had used yesterday also, that we've stressed on dialogue and diplomacy. He said that India has discussed the need for de-escalation and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Mr. Modi also said that the attacks on commercial vessels and obstacles to international navigation in the Strait of Hormuz are unacceptable. He said India is continuously making efforts through diplomacy to ensure the safe movement of Indian ships, even in this war environment. Mr. Modi also said that the ongoing war in West Asia has been continuing for more than 3 weeks now and has created a serious energy crisis across the world. And for India as well, and he says that the situation is a matter of concern as the trade routes are being affected due to the conflict. Then he goes on to say that it is disrupting the regular supply of essential commodities such as petrol, diesel, gas, fertilizers. And then he says that in the last few days, ships loaded with crude oil and LPG have arrived in India from many countries of the world. He said India is committed to ensuring the safe arrival of all ships carrying essential goods such as fertilizers, oil, and gas. Now, I would want your reaction to this before I go to the other points. So, this statement which he has made in Rajya Sabha today, do you think that this kind of a statement was expected by Prime Minister, or he should have said something more?
Seems like a very generic statement to me. There are no specifics on it. If he was so worried about the consequences this war would have on us, which will be very serious, because India is so dependent on remittances from the 90 lakh Indians who are in the Gulf. Plus, India is so dependent on oil imports, which are going through the roof. 88% of our oil is imported. That we should have been extremely, extremely vocal about not fighting a war in West Asia at this point, and very much in favor of peace. But we didn't do that. Even the Prime Minister visited Israel 2 days before. He would have probably known of the attack. Otherwise, he wouldn't have visited it. It wouldn't have been safe for him. He didn't say a word. He should have told the.
Speaking in Parliament, whether it was in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, at least he should have shared it with Parliament. Whether what kind of talks he had with Benjamin Netanyahu, did he know about
Exactly.
the? He should have shared this in Parliament.
Exactly. He should have shared in Parliament. What did he have in private? And if Netanyahu didn't listen to him in private, he should have gone on public. He should have gone in their parliament. He should have gone in front of the press, because so much was at stake, as you can see now. But he didn't, and he has been doing this for year after year after year. I can't understand. Actually, it's beyond my. I really can't comprehend this foreign policy, and I can't understand, because the costs are being borne by poor Indians, the poor Indians whose relatives send remittance to them in their homes from the Middle East. They're mostly workers, because the rich Indians don't send anything. They keep their money there only, or put
Yes.
it in US dollars accounts. The poor Indians whose motorcycle, whose bus and train travel costs will increase now, and overall inflation, because oil is an input into every commodity, and the cost that will be incurred by our farmers, because fertilizers, 33% of the world fertilizers are made there. Most of the world's sulfur is made in the Middle East, aluminium, helium. So the across the board, costs are going to skyrocket, as you are seeing already in terms of the plane tickets, air tickets. When you go to the pump to fill your car or your motorcycle, so much was at stake. So much was at stake that the rupee itself might crash, because the rupee was being uh, kept in its place somewhat by the remittances that used to come in dollars from Gulf. About 40% of total remittances used to come from the Gulf, and the oil price, as they both skyrocket, the rupee will fall. It's already, I think, come down to 93 rupees to the dollar. I won't be surprised if it falls much further. So much was at stake. He should have done it. In fact, you can see that he was asleep at the wheel. That in the first week of this war, the government did nothing for LPG. It only woke up from the second week onwards to fill up the LPG. So I really don't understand the way the government is operating and thinking. I think you know this lackadaisical approach. This I don't know who advises them on foreign policy. Maybe the prime minister doesn't take anybody's advice, because he seems to think he's a man apart. God talks to him, as he said once in his election interview during 2024, that he has a direct connection with God.
No, in
I
fact,
don't know where.
yesterday we saw Rahul Gandhi had reacted to Prime Minister Modi's speech. Today also it was a 20-minute speech, and Mallikarjun Kharge, Congress president, also has reacted. I would like to read the tweet, what he has written. The 20-minute statement by Prime Minister Modi in the Rajya Sabha was at best an exercise in obfuscation. We seek clear answers to three fundamental questions. Now, these are the three fundamental questions put by Mallikarjun Kharge. First one, through his inconsistent and swinging diplomatic posture, the Prime Minister appears to have altered the balance of India's strategic autonomy, long a cornerstone of our foreign policy across successive governments. Following his recent visit to Israel, India has faced visible diplomatic consequences. Why did the Prime Minister fail to take Parliament and the nation into confidence about his apparent shift? And what concrete steps have been taken to restore India's strategic autonomy? Point number two, nearly 37 to 40 Indian flagged ships carrying around 1,100 sailors remain stranded in the Strait of Hormuz with cargo valued at approximately 10,000 crore. Despite the prime minister personally speaking to the Iranian president twice and the external affairs minister engaging multiple times with his Iranian counterpart, why has India failed to secure safe passage for its own vessels? Why are countries like China, Russia, Japan, along with other friendly nations, being granted safe transit while Indian ships remain stuck? Then, point number three, Prime Minister has claimed in Parliament that India has diversified its energy imports from 27 to 41 countries. If so, which countries are currently supplying LNG, LPG, and crude oil to India, and in what quantities? More importantly, if diversification has been achieved, why are citizens still facing shortages, long queues, and black marketing and sharp price rises across the country? So, what would you say about these questions which have been raised by Mallikarjun Kharge Mohsin?
See, I don't want to take a political stance because that's not my job as an analyst. But I will say this that of these 3 points, all are seemingly valid. That yes, our sailors are stuck. Our 40 odd ships of ours are stuck. Why is Iran not giving us permission to leave when it's giving China, Russia, and this even up to Japan? It has just allowed a couple of our ships to leave. Now that's not sufficient. One ship is not even enough for one day's LPG consumption in India. So what's going on? I think partly Iran perceives us as being close to Israel and in cahoots. In fact, I would say because all the BRIC nations condemned this unprovoked attack by Israel and America on Iran. We didn't. That is China, Russia, uh, South Africa. They all condemned it, and also the killing of Ayatollah Khamenei, assassination of a head of state who was also head of their religious system. So, in fact, Arakchi, the Irani foreign minister, requested India that as the BRICS chair, India should make a statement, and India didn't. Even the condolence book we didn't sign until 4 days later when the pressure became too much. So, uh, so that's a fair point. That why are our ships stuck? And as I would say, what is happening to the interests of our
Right.
citizens there? And I forget what was the other point was about strategic autonomy. What happened
Yes.
to our strategic autonomy? That I've mentioned quite a bit in the first 25 minutes. I've been telling you that strategic
Yes.
autonomy has gone to Israel and to the US, it seems.
Yeah.
And
So, all
the
in all,
third
if
point
I
also.
may all in all, if I may ask you to summarize Prime Minister Modi's reply on or the statement on West Asia conflict, is it far from satisfactory? And he should have, he could have said much, but he didn't choose to say much.
He didn't choose to say much. And the way the situation is going, like if this Hormuz remains closed, which looks likely, because I don't think Trump is serious about negotiations, and therefore,
Also,
uh,
what
hmm?
what if Iran doesn't? What if Iran is not ready for any kind of negotiation?
No, Iran has clearly spelled out its terms, which are that they need to US and Israel need to pay reparations. They need to remove US troops from there from the Middle East. They need to also not insist on this nuclear business. They have also mentioned that uh, they are what's it called sanctions relief. So, but Trump doesn't seem to be engaging on any of these substantive points. So I don't think there's going to be an opening of the Hormuz Strait, which means oil is not going to come down. So, given that the situation is likely to deteriorate further, it would have been better for the Prime Minister to have been open and frank right now, because later on, people are going to blame the government for not making the necessary uh, provisions, for not taking the necessary steps. And what is worse is the what I foresee is the recession which is going to come in India because
Yeah.
of these
About the
rising oil
economic
prices.
impact, we did an interview, an exhaustive one with an economist. So, but I would want to ask you definitely, and that's my last question to you: that do you see the end of this war at all, or the possibility of the end of this war? Because we saw that there is an oil refinery in Texas which was. Bombarded and which was up in flames in the morning. All the TV channels were showing it. Still, there are news reports coming in as far as missile attacks and drones are concerned. So, is the war really ending? As what Donald Trump said, that we'll take a break for 5 days. and we our talks are on. So is he going to use those 5 days and pressure Pakistan into bringing Iran into some sort of a negotiation? Or there were earlier reports that these 5 days he could use for some kind of a ground invasion.
No, I don't think this war is coming to an end immediately because their positions are so far apart, the US and Iranian position. And Iran has suffered so much damage that, most importantly, Iran wants a once and done deal. It doesn't want just a ceasefire, which again, a few weeks or a few months later, Israel and US are going to violate. It wants an end to all hostilities. So all of these conditions are such that I don't think the US is serious. So it might well be that they are just buying 5 days in order to get their Marines in place, their 5,000 Marines in place to again escalate. And so I don't foresee, had their positions been a bit closer, and even now the Trump is still sending those two clowns, Witkoff and Kushner, to negotiate. These guys, in one day they negotiate usually three conflicts. Morning they do Gaza, in the afternoon they do Iran, in the evening they do Ukraine. Each of these conflicts requires, or has required in the past, dozens of people negotiating for months and years. How can you do this in a couple of days, swinging by? That's why the Iranians also felt that Americans were not serious. They made many offers to the Americans. The Americans were not serious. It seemed like the Americans had made up their mind about war. And that's why I think we need not feel too much heartburn or envy about Pakistan being a mediator, because I don't think anything will be achieved by this mediation. I don't think the US is serious about mediation and much will be achieved. So I think the war will
Right.
continue. Mm.
All right. So, I mean, this is the biggest story which the world is following and closely glued to. So, we'll have to wait and watch how things unfold, and especially these next 4 days, as pronounced by Donald Trump, that he's taking a break. There will be no attacks. This is what he's directed his War Department. So, we'll have to wait and watch how things pan up. Thank you so much, Professor Mohsin, for joining on HW News. Thank you.